All right, so that's the basic model that we're using. So now what about smoothing? So what we're going to add is something called a modifier to the mesh. So this object here, I'm going to go back into edit mode and select all the points. And then I'm going to add a modifier. Now, I don't have it scrolled over far enough, but if you move this over, you can see the wrench. Another way to get to that is if I move it back. If you hover your mouse over that bar and use the scroll wheel, you can get to the other menus. So I need to add a modifier, and what it is subdivision surface. A quick warning, do not hit apply here. What it'll do then is it'll actually apply the modifier and add in all of these various faces and points to your model. We actually don't want to do that. We want to leave it as just a modifier, so that if we're manipulating the blocks here, we just have to deal with a couple of points as opposed to every single one of the points at the end of his hand here. Also, if I look at him through the camera right now, I'm looking at his feet, but this is actually smoother than what you see, and that's because over here in the modifier, the render uses two subsurfaces, two divisions of every single face, whereas when we're editing in the view, it's only doing one. It's a good idea to keep the view smaller just so that it makes it so the computer is quicker to respond. Only when you want to do your final render do you want to up the level of this. So I hit escape to get out of the render. All right, so that's subdivisions. So the next thing, we want to then try expanding things out so that his torso is a little wider here. The basic idea with that is we're going to grab the faces around the center of his chest. Make sure that you use the median point for your center. So if I go into face select, grab that, 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 and that, so those four. I think I'm going to turn this off so I don't accidentally select things I don't mean to. We can then scale it in the X direction, or whatever your left to right one is. So I currently, right now, the median point is my center, as opposed to the 3D cursor or something like that. So if I scale in X, I can expand it outwards. So that's the first section of that. The other thing we do is we're trying to bend the arms upwards. And the basic way we do that is we actually chop off the end of his arm. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt, it's a 3D model. And we'll delete those, and then we'll actually expand it upwards. Now, in order to fix this hole into the end of his arm, we'll also have to add a face back in. So, time for your surgery, Mr. Man. Extrude. So that's basically where they had it before. And so selecting those faces, if I delete that, notice there's a hole in his arm. Whoa, you can see inside him. That's weird and disturbing. All right, so this is the vertex. So I'm going to select those 4 points around it and hit F to add the face back in. Next, I'm going to take this thing and extrude it up. Whoa, it's like an arm is growing out of his elbow. That's weird. Anyway. So this arm, I don't need to worry about because I didn't extend it out further. Depending on how you do your model, it might be a little different. He's giving up. His arms are up in the air. And then if we try upping the view a little bit, that smooths it out a little bit. If you don't like the particular shape, you can try moving the various points around. You can subdivide some of these faces and try and smooth it out. There's lots of ways you can make this model better. Also, one other thing they do is they subdivide the feet down here. So if I go down here, take a look at this one, and subdivide that, and then if I grab, say, this edge here and this edge here, I'm going to try grabbing that in just the y-axis. You can kind of start pulling the foot towards him. So hopefully that gives you the rough idea of how you do that. You can reshape the head, make it more oblong. basically all they're doing is they're scaling it so it's a little more egg-shaped. So if I go back into object mode, grab his head, go back into edit mode, select them all, scale, S, Z. Look, he's an egghead. There you go. So that's the general idea of that. You probably want to subsurface the head separately as well. All right, the hat. This is probably the trickiest one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into object mode, and I'm actually going to go to a different layer. So if you've ever done Photoshop, you might understand how layers work, but it's basically like another canvas area that you can work on and then shift it to between layers. So down here we're on this layer here. That's where all of my objects are. If I click on the next one over, it looks like he's gone. Don't worry, he's still there. We're just working on a different layer. So let's say that I want to add in something like a hat here. So let's see, I'm going to try probably there. So notice that they're on the X and the Z axis here. I have to add in an object that has some sort of mesh to it. So I'm just going to add in, I don't know, a circle. I'm going to go into edit mode and make sure I'm in vertex select, so it's the individual points of the circle. If you're worried, there it is. I'm actually going to delete all those vertices. So I have to have some sort of object, but then delete them all out in vertex select mode. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to control and left click to place a series of vertices. And basically make something like this, where I'm going to make the outline of a hat. So they're going to make something like this here. Next, I'm going to put the 3D cursor here at the end. So if I go there, I'm going to snap the cursor to the selection, so the 3D cursor is now there. And then we're going to spin it. So we're going to select all of the vertices and then do Alt-R to spin it. So all the vertices, Alt-R to spin it. Now, one thing to keep in mind that spin has a number of things that you can set. For example, we probably don't want this in the y-axis. We probably want this on the z-axis. So I'm actually going to do 0 for this and 1 for the z-axis. Now, that's exciting if I want a quarter of a hat. Instead, what I'm going to do is 360. Look, a hat. So now that I have my awesome hat that I've spun around using the spin, I would kind of like to put it on my dude in the other one. So what you do is you hit M after this is selected to move, and we're going to move it to this layer here. It's like, it's gone. Oh, there it is. It's kind of in the wrong spot and the wrong scale. But I can grab that, move it up, let's scale that up. That looks ridiculous. Not that most of this doesn't, but a hat. All right, so now we have all of that. That's the basics of what you want to do. So that went through walking through how to put subsurfacing on a person, how to create a new object for the head, a new object for the hat, which was actually created from points, how to select various things, and how to move between different layers.